Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's council meeting. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones. City of Anamosa City Council agenda, regular session Monday, May 12, 2025, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center. 1.0 roll call.
Krim,
Here.
Kay Smith. Here. Weimer,
Here.
Dan Smith.
Here.
4 of 6 council members are present in chamber. We do not have any council members remotely. 2.0 pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Those of you that have the agenda on you or have reviewed it, we do have it somewhat of a lengthy agenda this evening. So we will attempt to roll through, but give due diligence in discussion of each of the items. 3.0 consent agenda review and approve. There are 3 items listed. I will read all 3 off. Council can make a motion that includes consent, which will bring all 3 up for discussion and 1 single vote, or they can make a motion on any of the individual items. Item A, minutes from April 21st, 2025, regular session. Item B, current bills. Item C, liquor licenses.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Feel free to discuss any of the 3 items. Does the public have any input? Haley, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Kay Smith.
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith.
Yes.
Krim,
Yes.
Consent motion approved. 4.0 public hearings, none. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 postponed items, unfinished business. 6.1 discussion and possible action. Proposed solution to prevent motor vehicle traffic from traveling through center portion of roundabout on Old Dubuque Road, Shane Brown Street, Superintendent.
Good evening, Shane Brown, Street Superintendent here. Last time we were up here, you asked me to find out what we could do. Jeremiah and I got going on some conversation. I talked to the DNR. They said, do what you want, put a fountain in the middle. That's not a good idea. Then we wanted more clarification. So Jeremiah had gotten a hold of Snyder and HR Green, and they both said the same once we signed off on it. That roundabout is ours to do with whatever we would like to do with it. I did get a hold of Dytmeyer's for some nice stone blocks. They're about $260 a piece. 260 a piece, yep.
And you said you thought you needed 4 of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did check around. I was in North Liberty here over last week. They've planted some trees in the middle, like arborvitaes, nicer stuff. If that's something you want to do in the future, they put some grass, like those individual little grass balls or some flowers or whatever, just to make it stand out. But for now, I think we should just slow them down.
Most of the ones I see are just mounds, somewhat mounds of it covered with grass,
Yeah,
all the way from here to Oklahoma.
right. But I mean, I was down there, and so both of their roundabouts are different. I mean, they still have the stone from Stone City in it. But the accent in it a little different, each one of them. They're only a half a block apart, so it's not hard to see. But I think right now for the start of it, and then whatever you think down the road, but I think we should go with the blocks for now to get them stopped, and then we'll fix the grass.
I think that School is out, they will be less traffic too.
Is there room in your budget? It's a little over $1,000. We good on that?
Yeah,
Well, I'd move to purchase 4 of the stone blocks from Dyke Myers to be placed out there at your discretion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Todd, second by Dan. Other council discussion? Public comment?
Tom Durgan, downtown property. On just a side note, I believe I seen just, and these guys I'm sure checked in, no, but I believe there was a federal or a state guideline on those roundabouts. I thought I seen 6-8 months ago. The 4 stones, I don't think would bother, but there's a visibility, I believe, and something else on that. And I don't know if they've checked into that or not, but I'm pretty sure just an FYI on that.
Haley, would you conduct a roll call?
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Hill Smith,
Yes,
Motion to approve proposal of stone blocks carries. 6.2, discussion of possible action. Sidewalk replacement repair at 306 North Davis Street.
Shane might want to come back up. Basically, since our last meeting, we were able to obtain a quote, get the approximate cost of doing that stretch of sidewalk on 306 or at 306 North Davis Street. I think we verified what we already knew, that we'd probably do it in-house for less expensive if that's the direction that we're gonna go. Yeah, I don't know, Shane, if you have any other details, otherwise. guess
so I
look at
I
that
did
for a
look
second.
out or get a quote and it'd be $2,337 for the cement plus rock, so we'd have to come up with the rock ourselves. Or he'd charge us extra. And then the trees in the back, that was kind of talked about as an issue too. They're 4,800 plus to be taken down. So. That's what I know. And concrete has gone up significantly, so
So Shane, you're saying 2,300 our cost, city cost?
well, this was a quote I got.
Okay.
We're gonna be probably about 500 less than this.
have any idea of the traffic on the sidewalk? I've never seen anybody walking on it.
I've never have either. But
I make the motion to have the city replace the sidewalk.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by
Hey,
Todd.
Shane, don't go away yet. I got questions.
okay, shoot.
Well, since we're talking about taking trees down, that should be done before the sidewalk's replaced.
Actually, we're going to have to probably go on the neighbors. We're probably going to have to ask the neighbor if we can go on his right away. The way it's looking right now to take them down.
There's
Okay,
no
so,
alley right away there.
There's an alley right away.
right, but you're not gonna go through the
I
front, you're gonna
don't
come into
think
the
so,
back. Okay,
but we're pretty backed up, so I'm not sure when the sidewalk's gonna get put in.
and if we're doing this at this point, you're capping the sewer, what are you doing with the sewer?
That's up to him. I'm a sidewalk guy.
Well, I mean,
Teabagging this utility superintendent, no, that's up to you guys. What are you planning on doing with the lot? You're gonna try to sell it?
well, I mean,
Otherwise, we'll
are
take
you-
the water and sewer to the main.
well, are you laying the sidewalk straight? Or are you gonna go up and go around the standpipe?
We can move that stuff to the, closer to the street, but the question then poses, what's the council gonna do with the property? Because we don't wanna, I believe our ordinance says you have within a year that a structure's taken down to remove the water and the sewer from a lot. We haven't done that
Well,
yet because we're kind of waiting on.
I'm just asking because that 1,800 you quoted for the sidewalk, we still got other things to do if we're going to lay it the way you want to lay it. So there's other costs. So what's everything that's going to be involved in this? I mean, just to say lay a sidewalk, we can't do that unless we're going around the standpipe.
You can move that standpipe.
That's what I'm asking, Dan.
Yeah.
What's it going to cost to do everything?
Hydro back it down and move it over.
Because just to say lay the sidewalk is not a complete item. There's other things involved in this.
We can do that in also, so you just need to tell us if we're going to the main. You want us to go back to the main with it, or are you gonna sell it for in a small house?
I think that's an unknown.
For me, it would reduce the price of the lot, because you're gonna put in the sidewalk, but I'm gonna have to dig it up, and if I want to buy the lot, put something there, I'm gonna have to do something with sidewalk, I'm gonna have to redo the sewer, I'm gonna have to redo the water. We're adding cost to something that we're having a little trouble selling at the price we have it. We increase the price, we're not gonna get our money back, we're gonna lose money.
I would agree with Kay to move it over and leave it in place. Because we don't know what we're gonna do, and it would be a burden on whoever did buy the property.
That's why I'm saying I think it's easier to go around the standpipe than to remove it.
Then my question for the council is, how long do we let it sit?
Well,
Right now, we're not making any money. Caution money. It's
right,
costing.
and that's why last meeting I said we've got 3 properties. We need to have a discussion about how to proceed with those 3 properties. So that's going to be a topic. I don't know if next meeting or what you've got scheduled for that, but for this one right now, at least if we go around the standpipe, it's going to be the cheapest and most efficient for right now. Then we can decide what our expectations are going to be for those properties.
Well, Rich, my thought is that you could hydro excavate that in about 45 minutes. And you can move that pipe over about 3 foot and bring it up, and it's out of the way,
At a minimal cost.
in-house.
So my next
Right.
question is, how many properties does the city own? Because if we put a sidewalk on one,
Well, I'd say this one's been
Why
the
not?
longest one.
um,
This has probably been the longest one, right?
Well, I think the other 2, at least one of them has just a sidewalk on the front side. The other 2 are corner lots, and one's got a sidewalk on the front side that I think is still intact. The other one, I'm not even sure there's a sidewalk on that one.
but there's the sidewalk traffic down on that one, as there is where the one on Ford is.
I guess.
Not on the one way down on the west end of town. There's no sidewalk to connect to.
I know.
So
One thing I would say not to lose sight of on this particular location is there was a sidewalk.
right.
Yeah.
It was removed.
Sure.
It is now, in a sense, property of the city of Anamosa. Who has the ordinances on the books to enforce. And the discussion previous was, we can't enforce if we're gonna, in a sense, be non-conforming ourselves. The future of the property is, I agree, it's undecided. We can sit here and try to throw darts at a spot on the wall and guess what it's gonna be. But, wait till that time to address it on a more permanent level. I think for now, the best route for the city is to repair the sidewalk, move the standpipe, or move out of the sidewalk's way. All this can be done in-house, and we now, in a sense, are in compliant to our ordinance. And at the future date, we can make a decision of what to do with the property. that would have other discussions as well as, you know, feelers you need to put out to gain the interest. To eliminate utilities to it now, I don't know if that would be a real good idea.
Well, I don't know why we wouldn't just go around it and just leave it where it is and not add cost to it.
You're not adding cost, Rich.
Yeah, you are.
How?
We're paying guys to do the work. That's adding cost.
Take you 45 minutes.
It doesn't, Dan, it's still adding cost.
I say do it once and do it right.
Because no matter what, even though it's costing $1,800, you said for the city, we still have employee cost. We've got equipment cost. We still have cost on top of that 1,800. Because those guys don't work for free, Dan.
I didn't say they did.
Well, you said there was no
I
additional
said they
cost.
could do it cheaper in-house.
You said there's no additional cost.
Cheaper in-house than hiring somebody to do
Oh,
it.
I agree with that.
Have we listed the property with the?
No, and that's, I guess, for our future discussions of the few properties we do have. That's something we need to determine if that's a route we're gonna go, or we're gonna just try to accept bids or offers on them without going through a realtor. Several different ways we could proceed with it.
3 properties that we own residential.
Mhm.
Are we currently mowing that property? So we've got lawnmowers going up there, we got people mowing. How long does that property take to mow?
20 minutes.
But we're running equipment up there, we're running guys up there. How much revenue are we generating off that profit or property right now? 0. So it's on our books and we're collecting nothing for it. And how long has that property sat empty? Just year 3? Year 2?
4 years.
It's gonna keep going up in cost. Regardless of whether we do it in-house or whether we do it out-of-house. Shane just said our cement costs has gone up quite a bit. So we're losing money on this property regardless of what we do, whether we move the pipes, whether we don't move the pipes. And we haven't gotten it sold and nobody's interested apparently in approaching us for it. So
But if we haven't listed it, how many people even know it's available?
well,
If we haven't-
everybody in the neighborhood knows it's available out there. The neighbors, and it's not going to be, it is going to, in my estimation, it's going to be a non-conforming property to begin with because it's not a standard size lot.
Correct.
So your pool of potential purchasers is pretty limited. You got people on either side that might want to buy it, split it. I don't know. I haven't looked at ordinances on tiny houses in town here. I don't even know if we have ordinances on tiny houses. But something needs to be done with it. At a minimum, sidewalk needs to be put on. We are asking, and not asking, we are telling our citizens, your sidewalks have to be in compliance. Our own sidewalks are not being in compliance.
Well, I'm not saying we don't need to do something with the sidewalk. I'm just saying, instead of digging it up and doing whatever, let's just lay a sidewalk around that standpipe. Make it simple and easy right now. That would probably be the cheapest solution. And then we can figure out what we're doing from there. But then at least the sidewalk's in and done.
What is? This is
We
probably,
at least get the sewer on the sidewalk. by
The
20.
standpipes, the sewer we're talking about, if I'm correct. Right?
Yes.
It's just a piece of PVC pipe sticking up out of the ground, right? So if you dug down to it and you moved it over 2 feet out of the sidewalk's way, that sidewalk's gonna line straight perfectly where it was before, correct?
Over.
That's what I'm getting at. It would be easier for you guys, right?
You take it towards the curb.
I've looked at it, Rich. Have you been up there?
I've driven by it.
I stopped and looked at it, so it's in line with the sidewalk.
Right.
So if they move it over, they have room to form it and pour the sidewalk in one straight shot, be done with it. Am I correct?
Well, that would be correct, that you'd have to move it to lay the sidewalk straight. But
To not go,
Do we
you
need
can't
to-
go around it, Rich. It's right in the middle of it.
why can't you go around it? I've seen sidewalks laid around trees all over town.
I'm just saying.
You can
For
lay
the-
it up and
for
curve
the
around
easiest
and
thing for
curve
the
back.
city, Easiest thing for the city would to do, move the standpipe out of the way, form it, pour it, one shot. If you don't believe me, go look at it, but I look,
Well, I know you gotta move the standpipe to lay it straight, Dan. I've seen that.
you can't. go
I
around-
admit that.
I'm telling you, you can't go around it.
Why not?
It's foolish to do it that way. Would it be more work for you guys? Yes or no?
Yeah, it's a little more work.
You're gonna pull around it. That chunk of the sidewalk,
You just got done saying
Somebody-
time is money.
Well, okay, a little time to lay around, or now we're gonna dig it up and move it over. So we got time either way.
no matter what, if somebody builds a house there, they're gonna tear that section of sidewalk back up
Right.
to rehook to the sewer.
Right.
Hook to the water back.
That's why if you just laid around, it's coming out anyway.
You guys do what you want. You heard my thought.
I guess this is a future meeting. Why do we own property? Period, that we have no business owning. We are not in the business of owning property that generates no income. We don't, we're costing ourselves money. No matter what, whether we put a straight sidewalk in, whether we put curved sidewalk in, whether we leave a 4-foot section of dirt with no sidewalk. And this continually comes up as, well, we'll think about it at another meeting. And we just can't. And at some point, the kicking of the can costs us money every time we do it. And part of me is like, if I'm gonna go look at a piece of property that has a sidewalk on it, do I want one that's crooked like a dog's hind leg? Am I gonna pay top dollar for that, or am I gonna pay less for it because it's crooked as a dog's hind leg? We all know that sidewalk has to be taken up if someone's gonna put a house on or any other, but we have to do something. Doing nothing hasn't come. 3 years down the road on a piece of property that has sat empty. We've got community coming in saying something needs to be done. I'm not into just spending money to spend money, but I cannot believe that we are debating whether we put a straight sidewalk in or a curved sidewalk. Do what you want, but I think the motion is city puts the sidewalk in. So I'll call the question. I want to vote on it.
Prior to going to vote, council, do you have additional discussion? Public have comment. Tom, why am I not surprised you would have something to say?
Because it's me.
You're not.
Everybody
you're not
everybody
telling
up here
this council
has-
Anything more than they already don't know about. the
Just,
sidewalk.
hey, just give me a minute here, will you, please? You don't have to attack me. I'm just up here to make a
I'm
comment.
not attacking you. I'm-
So anyway,
telling you
that being said,
that's
everybody up
what
here has really
you're
good
needed.
points. That being said also is, I really have to agree with Todd, but
Sorry that.
a while back I went to, I was planning and zoning. And this is the perfect example of trying to get this straightened out, because there's not only the lots that the city owns, but other small lots in this town that people can't build on. I was trying to get them to change things to get a house in the same footprint on these properties so you can get tax money off, because right now you're getting nothing. And if the city owns them, you're not getting anything off them, right? No tax or anything. So I say table it till we get something together. I don't know how important it is to get the sidewalk in, but table it until we get something together. And try and address all of this in one shot and be done with it, because it's drug on, like Todd said, 3 or 4 years now. It's ridiculous that it keeps coming up. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
My point being is we're talking about one specific property, 306 North Davis Street. We're talking about a sidewalk, not trees. We've already talked about this umpteen times. Let's move forward, do the right thing and put a sidewalk in.
And I'm not saying I'm against the sidewalk. I just want to know exactly what we're doing. Because it's not just the sidewalk we're talking about, Dan. We're talking about that standpipe. We're talking about it. We had to figure out about the trees to make sure that we weren't going to be destroying the sidewalk to get back to the trees and cut them down. There are other things involved.
David, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Let me ask this question first. Is this for a straight sidewalk moving the standpipe? Because the motion was just for a sidewalk, so I don't know what I'm voting on here.
That's what the motion, you're right, Rich, the motion was to replace the sidewalk. Nowhere in the motion was it to be in a straight line to
Go
go around
around.
the standpipe.
So that could be a different question at a different time.
It sure could.
Okay, so if it's just to replace the sidewalk, my answer would be yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to approve sidewalk replacement carried. 6.3, discussion of possible action, Dillon Military Bridge.
good evening, Melissa Clow with HR Green. I had sent some summaries, cost summaries. Did you pass those out?
I did not get to that.
Okay.
No, I appreciate it though.
Okay. I will summarize quick. I understand that we might not make a decision tonight, and we can supply that information and continue to discuss this possibly at the next meeting. So, there's basically 3 different options that we have right now. The difficulty is the funding. I've been told by ECOG RPA 10 that our application for the TAP regional funding that was submitted has been recommended for approval by the Regional Planning Association. They meet tomorrow, and we'll find out more after that if that funding is accepted. And that was for $325,000. So with the 80-20 split, that would be a $65,000 local match with a $260,000 federal aid. That grant application is easier to redefine whether the bridge is rehabilitated in place or relocated. So there's potential to change our minds or to do something different with that one. So option A, restoration in place, would have to also include a funding application to the TAP statewide, as well as the State Recreational Trails Program. We would still need approximately $2 million in federal aid to rehabilitate it in place. As many of you know, funding is an unknown. We can apply, get what we apply for, get partial of what we apply for, or not get anything. So, assuming that we would get that and looking at full rehabilitation in place including trail connections on both sides and coordination of that. The city's cost would be about $565,000. The county would pay about $400,750. The city's is a little bit more because of the trail connections and the costs that don't include maintenance or work on the bridge. So option B with relocation. I have the city's cost at 309,400 and the county at 263,800. That is not assuming that we go for any other federal funding. That would be just what we've got. And that also includes, there is a historic resource development program that would give us about 75,000. And that's it would be 50,000 federal aid and 25,000 local. So it does create a little bit of a difference there. And then option C, to go back, this option B also includes trail connections. That's part of the TAP application. So there is some additional cost for the city there. Option C, if the city chose to just go without a grant, relocate the bridge with no other work, not include the cleaning or painting, it would be about $200,000 each for the city and the county. And then we would still have the TAP funds that would be awarded through ECOG to help pay for the trail connections and the bridge deck and the restoration to the bridge and other things, grading, things that we want to do in that area to create the trail and highlight the historic aspects of the bridge. That money would also be available to go to construction of a new bridge. So the estimated cost of a new pedestrian bridge is about $1.2 million with $200,000 in design fees. So that would be the next step then to get that pedestrian connection over to the state park. That would also be eligible for TAP funding statewide as well as the recreational trails program.
Melissa, what would the design fees be if we just rehab the current bridge we have? You know?
I do. Option A. So for the bridge, it's about 200,000 in design fees and then about 200,000 in, so at this phase where we don't even really have a concept plan, we go on percentages. So we usually go about 8% design, 12% construction administration, especially for this bridge. It would probably maybe even be a little bit more construction administration. So that's where we're at, about 400,000 for design fees as well as construction observation.
Does the county have the summary?
No, not yet. Tonight or after tonight, I was going to send Whitney an update, and we've already communicated for major progress, I guess, or updates. I'll probably have to attend a county supervisors meeting and actually speak in person. For minor, just sharing information. She said it was okay if I just submit it to her and she would disperse it to the supervisors. So kind of depending on where we went with this tonight was going to be my next step.
So I did do a quick summary of the cost if we just went for the relocation right now. And then we did the trail improvements to go along with that, which would be the grading and other items. And then the new bridge. And that total is about 700,000 for the city with the different projects. So it's more. It can be spread out. It might be a little bit more straightforward for funding opportunities though. And allow for just other, I know in that area, there are discussions about the streets building and needing to do grading there and just being able to combine some of that work that needs to be done with the bridge and the trail project. So. But unfortunately, it is a bridge and it's not a small undertaking. So if we do apply for other grants, they are much more specific. They aren't as lenient. Which means there's limited ability to redefine the project. So that is where to apply for other grants, there has to be a decision on what direction we're going.
For each application, presumably you folks do the application.
Right.
quotes. And those application costs don't come cheap, right? I mean, each one is gonna be a cost to us, right?
Right.
For those,
And the TAP application, like the regional one, it's 8 to 12 hours. The statewide's about the same.
so it's an
So
hourly figure, not just a project cost. I mean,
we usually wrap that into our project, our fee, our general fee. But I know there are applications like this one, we did include some funding in that concept agreement that we have in place right now. So that was covered already.
Okay.
So.
Wouldn't want to rush anybody, or I mean, I want this to digest a little bit, but at the same time, I think what it boils down to is just, I attended the navigating historic bridges thing. I believe some members of HR Green did as well, and it was probably more exciting for them than it was for me. And they reiterated there that, working with these historic bridges is just the unfortunate reality is you have to pick a direction, commit to it, get the plans drafted up and go forward before we can know what kind of funding we can get, which is contrary, I understand, to everybody's hopes and dreams. And then if we decide at that point it's not a good option, we want to change directions, we start all over and we do it again, a different direction. So I don't know exactly where to go from here, other than if the council has kind of a leaning or some thoughts that I can go and share with the supervisors, maybe get a feel for where they're at with this update and these options, and come back to the table and kind of push forward in a direction. Or if the council wants me to just bring this information to them and see what the supervisors say and report back, I can do that too.
So Melissa, if I'm, and there's a lot to digest here.
There is.
Option A would be to leave the bridge in place and rehab it. Correct.
Restored in place, correct.
And would there be design fees with that? You said 200,000, right?
Mhm.
And 200,000 in
In
inspection, basically.
inspection, right.
Do you guys ever do lump sum on a project like that?
We don't typically, but it could be discussed potentially. So people have,
I'm leaning towards rehabbing that bridge for the simple fact it is history of Anamosa. It's connected to a state park that's beautiful. And it's an asset to the city, in my opinion. And the county, if you want to get right down to it. So I'm leaning towards, hey, rehabbing in place.
I have talked to the state park. They do have funding pools, but they're usually on a 5 or 10-year wait list for projects. So not sure that would be much help either. Talking to the State Historic Preservation Office, the one thing they mentioned is if it is rehabbed in place, there may be more potential working with the county and the historic office here to do local fundraising and to get the community more excited. But I also recognize that by relocating it, it still is near the river. It's still kept intact and part of the trail system.
That rehab in place, though, if I misunderstood. Sounded like that was a $2 million price tag.
Yes,
Versus a new bridge for 1.2
right.
versus
But
less than 500,000.
You still have to do something with the old structure.
right.
I understand.
that's-
I'm just,
I know, I'm
Yeah,
$2 million gives me a little bit of heartburn. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, and.
Say-
I'm
but
all
say-
about, I'm all about,
well, and is that 2 million? Is that 2 million plus 400,000 for,
Right.
so it'd be 2.4 for the total
right, I
project?
had numbers of,
Yeah,
well, I had 2 million, but then I thought the city had a $565,000
Yeah.
something, and the county had 470, so. I don't, so that to me is pushing this thing almost to $3 million if I. And I'm not a mathematician, but that seems pretty close.
Right.
I agree.
I have the total cost, including final design, construction engineering, trail connections, which is a big part of the funding application. That's how you get the funding, is by connecting the trails you're building to usable spaces. So they want to see it come into Anamosa as well as attached to the park.
Sure.
Our estimate's at about 2.8
and that's with your fees.
on the rehab with our fees. Everything,
and you said 1.6 for a new bridge, right?
right,
And you still have to do something with the old bridge.
You
which
still
would
have to-
be
right,
Another 500,000 and then whatever, correct?
correct.
Shoot. I want council to have solid numbers.
Yep.
So I'm relying on you now, Melissa, to
Mhm.
cut through all of the cloudiness.
Yep,
You've given us 2.8 million on a rehab.
yes,
I want everything
total.
lock, stock and barrel on a relocate.
so the relocate, which again this includes final design, extra trail work, everything is 880,000.
Now,
But the
A new
880,000
bridge.
would not include the cost.
It would
of
not
additional-
include the construction of a new pedestrian bridge
New, cost a new bridge.
is 1.2 million plus.
I don't want, don't give me the plus. Give
Okay.
me the whole total, please.
So $1.4 million.
Plus design.
That's including design,
Good plus the 880,000.
right?
Now, those two are gonna go hand in hand.
So
$2.2 million.
Well, let me ask you this, that's relocate. And I don't want to,
Mhm.
this would be my last option. But if it's in such, say, dire shape at that time, what about demolition? What would a demolition cost?
we've
be?
not gotten a cost on that, but I can ask our bridge experts for that. If
I mean, that would be
be,
the very last
Mhm.
option, by all means, but. Just
I-
curious about that.
But there was the option C, which was relocate and don't do anything for a
anything else,
period of time, but. could
it would
be
at
done
least take
over
care
time.
of the bridge at this point with the county.
And if I understand correctly, the current hard deck bridge that crosses Wapsie right now has sidewalk space on that particular, I recognize it's a crappy corner and it's people coming down like maniacs down the hill, but
Yeah,
theoretically, that deck has a sidewalk width on either side. Correct?
theoretically it does. It does not meet the current safety standards for pedestrian use. So,
And we did talk about adding a deck on the outside of the bridge, basically, and said we could not do that.
right, our engineers looked at it and they could make it appear that it's added, it would be its own bridge on the outside. Their other concern is they would be two different ages then connected together, so if in the future, if one had to be redone, it may impact the other one.
What's the typical life expectancy of a bridge like that? Also,
Of the pedestrian bridge or the road? Typically for a road, we say the design life's 50 years.
50 years.
But I mean, the ones in use now are beyond that.
So. Looks like this thing is somewhere in the neighborhood of a $2.3 million up to a $2.8 million project. And I'm gonna be the doomsday guy and say, I have an idea of where the county may come in at this, so let's just say that we have no partner in this. That's our 2.8, 2.3 to 2.8. If we have no partners.
It would depend on the funding that we get then. So the funding that we're eligible for is an 80-20 split, so 20% of that.
But still, we
Plus-
eat the entire 20%.
Right.
We don't have partners.
And federal funding no longer covers consultant costs anymore. Some of them do. I'm still researching that because some do have some loopholes that help with the consultant aspect. So. And if you would like, Jeremiah, I could get you a more succinct summary to get to the county. So,
I'll just print off what you sent me
Okay.
instead of foregoing it like I did today.
But I would like to probably see that
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it sent out.
before making a decision.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to see what the buy-in from the other, because we're just shooting in the dark right now.
Yeah.
If they come back and say we're not interested.
Have a joint meeting with the supervisors. on this issue.
I don't know that it's out of the realm. I mean, we have in the past, so I mean, I will try to coordinate that with Whitney and see if that's an option. We can do that. Maybe get everybody in the same room.
Helpful if we could invite our
Yes.
consultant to that same
Mhm.
meeting.
Yep.
The county supervisors or county side of this did indicate, some time ago that the city, in a sense, would be the lead agent on this. But we could not make the decisions unilaterally if we needed to, propose whatever our options were to them. So I almost think the city is gonna have to make a decision of what they are proposing. And that's when it's taken to the county for a final, for their buy-in decision. But you're the ones that have to make that final decision on the city side, so. Just wanted to let you know that the county did say that we would be the lead agent and present to them what routes we would like to go.
Well, I think at this stage, we could get the information, give them information so they have time to digest it. We have time to digest it. And then if you go to their next week's meeting, maybe we could plan on a joint session sometime to have that discussion. Because I know in the past, they've had some comments about communication and so forth, but I would like to hear what they have to say. So we can make an informed decision.
I'd agree with that, Rich.
I will get everything compiled from Melissa and get a hold of Whitney and see if I can get on the next meeting, get them all the information and report back.
This item, in a sense, will be considered unfinished. Do you want to make a motion for the direction Jeremiah to go, or just move on from it this evening?
Well, I'll make a motion to have Jeremiah send out all the data from Melissa so that we have the documentation to have him send it to the county supervisors for him to try to get on their agenda next week at their next week's meeting. And after that, to see if we cannot schedule or could schedule a joint session.
I'll second that.
Motion by Rich, second by Dan. Council discussion.
Yes, I would like to add, I mean, I can't add to the motion, but I would like to keep this on the docket for an update minimally at our next meeting as to what's happened. So I'd like it to be on the agenda for our next meeting, that for an update as to the progress of attending the meeting and whether they're interested in a joint session.
Will do.
Anything else from council? Public have any comments? Haley, would you please conduct a roll vote?
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approach the county on the options. Carried. 6.4, possible discussion of possible action, Anamosa sidewalk program.
Melissa Clow with HR Green back again. We've had some discussions with Jeremiah after the recent Iowa Supreme Court ruling. HR Green works with Tiger Eye Engineering. They specialize in roadway pavement evaluation with cars and cameras. They will drive every mile of every road in Iowa, usually every year or every 2 years, to determine what the pavement's looking like and help us work with that. They have developed a sidewalk program. HR Green worked with them to get cameras mounted on our own e-bikes and kind of replicate what they do. We had provided Jeremiah a number for that last year, or to have interns walk through the city and provide a citywide evaluation. Talking with them this spring, they have provided us a cost much cheaper than we can provide to do that same service. So they're looking at, they had estimated 25 miles of sidewalk in town. We've calculated 21.8 miles. So for a cost of $10,360, they could do a full ride, I guess, of the city's sidewalks to evaluate them. I guess to back up quick, this is coming from previous discussions. City Council reviewed a new program in early 2023. And based on state code, city code, the property owner adjacent to that sidewalk is responsible for its maintenance. So if there's cracks or heaving or anything else, they're responsible for removing and replacing it, repairing it, and the maintenance for it. So with that new sidewalk program in 2023, council had decided that it was a lot to ask of citizens. There are a lot of streets here that don't have any sidewalks. There are many that just have it on one side. So a more equitable program was requested. So from there, a citywide analysis has been recommended, so we know what we're starting with. We know where we're at. We have 8 different regions that we've split the city out into so that you could do a sidewalk program every year and do a different region and make improvements. So the Tiger Eye sidewalk quote is $200 per mile. There's a project initiation fee of $2,000. And then they had a $4,000 visualization dashboard. That's a yearly fixed cost. Talking to RGIS, who you guys already work with, they could set up that same dashboard for about $7,000 with an annual renewal fee of $500. And then that information would belong to the city of Anamosa and be part of the GIS. So with this information, then the sidewalk, the condition of the sidewalk can be analyzed, and the ADA ramps, everything else, we would propose to start with one of the regions and kind of assume that whatever we see in that region is wrong with the other regions, to estimate what a yearly program would cost and how the city could approach it, whether through grants to homeowners as they repair it, or there's a number of different options I know other municipalities do when they first initiate these programs. But having this information to know exactly what work needs to be done is really the starting point. So that is the update that I have. And Jeremiah can pass along to you the summary of costs from Tiger Eye, as well as the sidewalk inspection zones that have been created and the miles of sidewalk in each of those zones.
In your memo, I included the costs, the miles of sidewalk is not in there. I also didn't include in there, and this is a bit preliminary, but one of my initial thoughts was the possibility of using some LMI money for this. Other communities have done that successfully. That does require a little bit of additional on City Hall's part. We've had some turnover, so we're still working on identifying exactly how much LMI we have. But it would be a possibility. And then the only thing I would add to that, so the GIS aspect of things, talked just a little bit with Melissa on it. Those costs are obviously they're like any other computer IT related costs. They're expensive, unfortunately, but originally I had proposed the idea of possibly using the CSO at the time to go out and try to observe these sidewalks and capture that data. Looking back, I will admit my error on that. I don't think that was probably a good recommendation. I've tried to calculate and capture that data, hard copy using quadrant maps and whatnot. It's almost impossible to zoom in that close on a map and get any meaningful data and then track it real time as far as what's getting done and what isn't getting done. So you have to zoom out the map. Well, then it becomes much less informative, I guess, and difficult to read. So, I mean, I think the GIS is probably a beneficial tool and a good way to go, but it's my 2 cents worth on that.
So we do have a website that could be shared with council to see what that dashboard would look like, what information they would get. from that.
You're asking the council to give you input on what direction they would like you to go.
Correct.
And he did say that Tiger Eye can do it cheaper than you can do it, right?
Yes, they can.
Give the council again what the cost for Tiger Eye was,
So
total cost.
total cost is $10,360 to bring their bikes up, do the analysis, and $2,000 for the project initiation. So it'd be $12,360.
I will make the motion to have Tiger Eye do the assessment, sidewalk assessment.
Then we can provide additional information as we go with getting that information in GIS and make that decision.
So would we contract with you to them or directly with them?
That I don't know, but I will be calling them in the morning. I think you would contract through us to them. So, because I know that's how we've done a number of other things. But I know with survey also, we've had you guys contract directly with them too. So I think it would be up to you.
So I gotta ask. If this contract goes through you to them, what additional fee are you applying?
That I do not know. I would have to go back and speak to the powers that be and pull that together.
You're handling, in a sense, the project. the
Right.
account.
Well, and how does that affect the cost proposal that you gave us?
Right.
I think it makes it incorrect. At 12,360.
Unless they're doing it for free.
You want to speak
So-
on that?
That I don't, I apologize. I could not get an answer for that. So. But we would be looking at having Tiger Eye do this, and then we would have an agreement with you for the GIS services and for other sidewalk program administration. We still do have about $15,000 in our current agreement to initiate a sidewalk program for the city of Anamosa that has not been spent. So there is a good chance that this could be added on as just an addendum to that. And we will have very minimal administration costs with them.
Well, and my next question is, I think he said we would have the data would be ours.
Right.
So is that going to reside on our servers or on your GIS servers?
It would be on our GIS servers, but it'd be handled in the same way all the other GIS information is handled.
Right. So if we ever had to change engineers
Right.
at some point in time for our GIS.
It would be turned over to you.
Okay.
And it would be yours. So.
Dan has made the motion to continue this project through Tiger Eye. We do not have a second at this time. Is there a second on the motion? Hearing none, the motion dies for a lack of second.
I would like clarification on the contract terms of how that's going to work and what the actual cost is if you guys are going to take a portion, if that increases the cost or
Yep.
how
And
that's going to work.
the other thing is not knowing. We haven't had those discussions with Tiger Eye, so we can have those tomorrow morning and start drafting all that up and get a response back to Jeremiah. So
Okay.
if we do it through them, they could get an agreement to you prior to the next meeting. And if it's through us, we can do the same. And
I move to table this discussion to the next meeting and the next meeting.
And I will second that.
Motion by Todd, second by Rich, to postpone the decision until the following meeting. Pending more data.
Yep.
Council discussion. Public comment. Haley, please conduct a roll vote.
Hey Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes.
Motion to postpone carried. 7.0 council action item, 7.1 project status update, HR agreement.
I'll make this one quick. 3rd Street sidewalk, preliminary plans will be submitted to the Iowa DOT on or before May 20th. The sidewalk program we just discussed. There is no update on the well 7 siting study. The water treatment plant disinfection, I was also told there was no update on. The plans for the sewer in the alley between Ford and North Huber is out to contractors right now. Bids will be received on Tuesday, May 20th. We've had a lot of interest. So if you're curious, I will send Jeremiah a link to the plan holders list just to see who has the plans, but so those bids will be received on May 20th, and we will make a recommendation following that for award of the project at the next council meeting. The city GIS project work is ongoing to update headstones and plots. It was confirmed this will be done by the end of May. And then GIS services, they have been instructed to add well 6 to the GIS database. We just discussed the Dillon Military Bridge and the sanitary sewer rehab near Elm Street and Hickory. We're still waiting on easements. So that is it for now. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question. I do have a question on the well 7.
Mhm.
How old is well 5 right now?
I would have to ask our water engineer unless.
80 something.
So it's getting close to 50 minutes staying on. That's why we're getting head start, because you know, property going here. So we're gonna try to head start on property.
Right, I was just trying to figure out how close we were to that 50 years.
We're getting closer.
Well, it seems like we've been
Close for a while.
Yeah.
getting closer and closer now because we've been looking at this well 7 for several years.
Yes, we've had multiple sites, but most of them have not been out. Yeah, I think when Andrew Marsh, or whoever was there, he said we had about 10 minutes.
Up to you.
So we've been talking with. Probably with Bill Walton,
Right.
and that was probably 10 or 12, 14 years. So
So we're kind of hitting start turning up the heat. Okay.
Any other questions from Melissa? Melissa, thanks for all the updates and
Thank you.
provided information.
Thank you.
Steve.
I know I threw a lot at you, so if you have questions, just let me know.
All right, thank you.
7.2, resolution 2025-16, approving plans and specifications. Authorizing the bid letting and setting the date and the time for the public hearing for the Huber sanitary sewer replacement project.
So as I put in my memo, just because of the timing of this was, the public notice was sent today. Those projects specs and plans are a little bit large. I don't know if any of you were able to receive those. I tried to email them. I got a few kickback a few different times. I can try to reduce them and send them again. Otherwise, I can make hard copies available too, if that works better for everybody.
Can you send them as a zip file?
I can try, yeah. Yeah, they were, I did try to reduce the size once, just PDF, and it was still pretty large, so I may try to do that and I can get them tracked.
That might work.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get those out before this, otherwise, this is just scheduling that public hearing.
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for May 27th at 6 p.m. at the regular council meeting.
Second. Motion by Rich, second by Todd. Further discussion? Public comment? David, please.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve public hearing carried. 7.3, resolution 2025-19. Resolution to fix a date for a public hearing on proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $3,181,000.
This one, I think most of you have seen before. The documentation comes from Dorsey and Whitney. In amongst all their paperwork is that resolution. This is just for the SRF loan application for the Flow EQ project that's currently going on.
Set the public hearing.
I'll move to set the public hearing. Is that for May 27th at 6 P M.
I'll second.
Motion by Todd, second by Dan. Council discussion. Public comment. Amy, please.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yeah.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to approve public hearing date carries. 7.4, resolution 2025-20. Scheduling a public hearing on the proposed vacation and conveyance of city right of way located adjacent to the west of 105 West Fifth Street.
We can make the public hearing on May 27th at 6.
Second.
By Dave, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to set public hearing carried. States.
Yeah, sure.
7.5, resolution 2025-21. Authorizing the city clerk or interim to make the appropriate interfund transfers of sums and record and record the same in the appropriate manner for fiscal year 2025 for the city of Anamosa.
Move. Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Motion authorizing city clerk, period. 7.6, resolution 2025-22. Setting the date for the public hearing to amend the current city budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for May 27th, 2025 at 6 P M.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to set public hearing date carried. 7.7, resolution 2025-23. To set the wages of seasonal part-time parks and recreation employees for the 2025 summer season.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve wages, carried. 7.8, review and approve resignation of city clerk Gina Les David.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Dan. Also, discussion or comments? With this being an employee matter, I'm not going to ask for any public comments. Kaylee, would you please conduct a roll?
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve resignation carried. 7.9, review and approve site plan review for the Jones County Public Safety Storage Facility on Davidson Boulevard.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Todd.
Just gonna add in here, as I instructed the council, we did our internal review from our site plan review committee, as well as HR Green has reviewed this. Nothing significant on this. Haven't been in contact with Sheriff Grover, the county, and their engineers working on this, and I think they're plugging away at it, so. We're getting ready to.
Got any comments on this? Sure, you're more than welcome.
Greg Robert, Jones County Sheriff, appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you. I was hoping 6 months ago to kind of give you an update, but seems like this government project has been very slow to move and lots of hurdles. And so I think Todd's probably fairly up to date because we talk about it every month. And so with the project, we've kind of ran into some issues with the land. We've run into issues, and I'm sorry, I think there's an engineering firm behind us, but some issues with them. We've kind of sorted through that. And so kind of where we're at is we made a decision as our small group to get the RFP put together. We are going to include a steel structure RFP along with a concrete structure RFP, give the construction companies the ability to all kind of buy in on the project. We do have local construction companies that are interested just because of the public safety aspect of it. And so we're hoping by including both of them, it gives them a fair opportunity to bid the project. So that has slowed it up. We then ran into the 3 individual parcels out there. We could have constructed the building in a manner without going the route of combining all 3. But for the long term of the project, it was best if we just did it right the first time. And it'll be a better facility, better utilized, better access if we are going to go ahead and run it north and south. So that's kind of where this property issue as far as kind of combining it. So I appreciate you guys looking at it. I do want to say I appreciate the city administrator's work on this. It's kind of got slowed up in the mud a little bit. And so now once this occurs, the RFP should be going out in a couple weeks. And there will be a 3-part to the RFP. Because of tariffs, because of all the stuff we've been talking about, there's no agreement on what can be afforded. And so we have broke the project kind of into three RFPs. It will be for the first one, a facility of 80 by 80, which will just be storage only. They will have the ability then also to bid part 2 of that, which would be an 80 by 80 with a 72 by, I believe, 36 classroom portion on there. So that way we can have classroom instruction and training out there. And then part 3, if the bids come in where we have the money available, we'll be adding a 20-foot by 80-foot section onto the storage to make the complete storage 100-foot by 80. And so we really won't know until the RFPs are done. Government sometimes is terrible about just rushing projects, and we've really tried to slow it down and make sure that we are getting the best bang for our dollar and to kind of set us up for future success. So I appreciate you guys looking and appreciate your work. Once we get through the RFPs and we kind of know where it's at, I have every intention to kind of come back and tell you. So thank you.
Also, you have any discussion on the motion before you? Any public comment? Haley?
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve site plan review carried. 7.10, review and approve 2080 agreement between the city of Anamosa and Jones County, complete County Road X31 project.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Dan. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley?
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to approve 2080 agreement carried. 7.11, review and approve authorization to proceed with recruitment hiring of a temporary full-time public utilities employee. 1 vacancy due to employee retirement.
I'll second.
Motion by Kate, second by Dan. Council discussion.
So I'm just curious, when you say temporary full-time, what are we talking here?
Yeah, so we had some movement with this retirement. We filled that temporary full-time spot that was made temporary for the military leave vacancy. This shift in employees now will create with that retirement. We're hoping to once the vacancy actually opens up, move that temporary person into the full-time position. But that will then create that temporary spot being back open again. So we're just going back and refilling that temporary position.
I think I understood that.
Sorry. I got a little wordy. There's some movement going on. But ultimately that temporary position, since it's temporary, I want to go back and make sure the council is okay with just putting somebody back in there.
Okay.
Other discussion, council? Public comment? Haley, please.
Kate Smith,
Yeah.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve recruitment hiring carried. 7.12, review and approve standard operating procedures of the Anamosa Police Department pertaining to the school resource officer and school resource officer program. Chief Worthy.
Good evening, Eric Whirling, Police Chief. Included in your council packets would be both the policy for the police department for the school resource officer, and then more or less a list of what their duties are in that job. I sent these both to the city administrator for you all to review, and I also additionally sent it to the superintendent for review. I have not gotten any feedback from him, positive or negative yet, but I haven't heard back from the school district yet about it. Are there any questions, comments, concerns about those two documents?
When I was looking at this under the standard operating procedure evaluation, it says that you will be annually evaluating the SRO program. I was wondering, it doesn't say, but I was wondering if you would make that a point that after your annual review, you would report back to the council on that review.
Absolutely. I will add that in.
Has this been sent to our city legal counsel to take a look at?
It is not. Generally speaking, we have not engaged in the practice of sending our standard operating procedures to them. I think there's quite a few that need updated, but we have not, no.
If a student is referred to or is brought to the attention of the SRO, will there be a file started, say if little Johnny gets in trouble and the SRO steps in and there's some informal discussions, behavior modification, whatever you want to call it? Does a file get started on that child internal to the SRO and the school?
I can't speak to what goes on in the district. The officer is going to be subject to the same procedures as anybody on the street. So if it would be a call for service, like let's say there was two students that were fighting, then they would draw a call for service. So that would be documented in that way. If there was some other informal counseling or such going on, I don't anticipate the need for documentation of that, but I haven't discussed that specific topic with the school district.
So if we have two students that get into a fight.
Mhm.
And the first choice is to separate them, get each side of their story, and then engage in some sort of. This is how we're gonna handle it today. I assume there's some record keeping that is going to be put together for that incident.
Mhm.
So let's say student one in that stays out of trouble, never has any further dealing in a disciplinary proceeding with the SRO. but student two gets into another fight. And so now we are starting to develop a pattern. What happens with the report or the information from the first instance? Is that continuation of student number two's file that is starting to be created within the SROs?
I don't anticipate the SRO keeping a file separate from what we would normally keep. So based on your example, there would be 2 calls for service with students in each and reports from each. But I would expect the officers to handle it like everything else. If we're running into people multiple times, they may try and find a different way to approach that student to try and keep same thing from happening over and over again. But I don't anticipate them keeping like private files on students.
But those are investigatory in nature. Talking to them about each incident, right?
Yes.
Right, thank you.
On meetings with the SRO officer and the rate with IEPs and public works.
That would be a district question, but my hope would be that they would include the school resource officer in those so they can respond appropriately. In the same way that if they are doing PBIS, like the reward system for PBIS, I would want the district to integrate the school resource officer so they'd be aware of what those systems are so they can respond appropriately.
And the percentage of time spent at the different schools.
The one that I had in there is it's just a suggestion. I, off the top of my head, don't remember where the suggestion came from, but it's just a starting point and that can be adjusted up or down based on. Those numbers are not based on call volumes, but more about how much time I would suggest they spend in the schools doing, contact with kids, doing education for the students, education for the staff, that sort of thing. But we're gonna have to adjust it on the fly. So those can change up or down.
To standard operating procedures that you compiled and presented. Did you create those from scratch or did you take those from trying to get a feel of how we came to drafting those?
The job description was based on the current policies that we have in the police department, because we have a job description for each role, officer, sergeant, suspended lieutenant position, and then the chief position. So I started with that template and then added on some of the things that we had talked about with the district or in our subcommittee. The SOP for the program itself, I spoke with other departments that have their own programs to ask what components were in there, what was covered, what was left out, that sort of thing. And I based it on that.
Approved?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Dan, second by Rich. And spook there for a minute. Any further discussion?
I want to know, will the SRO officer keep a record of what he or she does each day? Because, never mind what because. No, I'm in the school,
So I guess it depends on what you mean. We have a record of calls, like if there was an assault, like the what Councilmember Weimer said, but as far as what they're doing day to day, if that's something that we need to start with to establish what they're doing, absolutely, we can add that in. a lot of the direction that they're going to be following is going to be direction of whatever administrator is in the building that they're in. Which was written into the policy that way. So they're still our employee, but their direction on daily activities could come from the high school principal, the middle school principal, and so on. If the council would like to see something I did when I was very first an officer is I had a daily log and I wrote down what I did. And if that's something that you would like to see as a report, we can start that. And if we ever get to the point where we don't need it, then so be it. But if that's
That would
something
be
you would
very
like, okay.
Any other questions, comment, council? Any public comment? Haley, please.
Crump,
Yes.
Casement,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve standard operating procedures carried. 7.13, review and approve pay request from Schneider Insurance in the amount of $400,227.89 for city's annual insurance renewal.
Move to approve.
Motion by Rick, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley.
Casement,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve pay request carries. 7.14, review and approve pay request from Eight Finger HVAC in the amount of $5,300 to replace the furnace at the Anamosa Fire Department. Dan Frank, Fire Chief. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Dan Frank, Fire Chief. The old part of the station, the furnace is 25 years old and the air conditioners from 1980, the original. So we had it when we had our budget meeting for this fiscal year. We had factored in getting that upgraded, be proactive about it instead of waiting for it to break down on us. So it's just a matter of time with it being, but especially with the air conditioner being 45 years old.
Curious, where did it come in comparison to your budget allowance?
It's actually less than what I thought it would be. So I was figuring about 7,000 or 8,000 for it. So both individuals had to work with their dealers to give us a good price on it.
So can I ask why you went with bid that's $400 more than the other bid?
The only reason why is that the one from Eight Finger is a 2-stage. It has it's a more efficient furnace than the ones Schaefer provided. I talked to a couple other HVAC people that I work with my work that I do, and just asking about the two furnaces that were quoted, the Weather King and the Armstrong, and everyone had a favorable experience with the Armstrong, saying it was a more superior product than the other. So I did ask Eight Finger if they would have a furnace comparable to the one that Schaefer quoted, and they do not have one that's comparable to that. So going apples to apples straight up was not really a feasible deal.
So did you ask Schaefer if he had one comparable?
I tried calling Schaefer twice and I get a response out of them. So I did call them twice to see if they had anything.
Did you put this out on as written bids or just a phone call?
Phone call.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
there was no specs given to say this is what
Correct.
we
Correct.
want or what we're looking for?
We need one that's comparable to what's there, the upgrade, more efficient model of what's sitting there right now.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Todd. Further council discussion?
I don't know, it seems to me like maybe in the future, we might want to make sure that bids are coming in as a apple, that comparables as opposed to one proposing one thing. And if you said what's there and Mike proposed what was already there existing, he did what he was asked to do. I think that's for the future, though.
Public comment? Haley, please.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Trump,
No,
Casement,
Yes.
Motion to approve, pay request carried. 7.15, review and approve. A pay request not to exceed $20,597 to purchase a digital marquee at the Lawrence Community Center, Gil Yoder Parks and Recreation Director.
Gail Yoder, Parks and Rec Director. So you guys should have 3 different quotes for this. I know you just talked about this. So what we did, we reached out to a bunch of different companies, not just these 3. We showed them what we have available, the current 4x7 opening or slot we have in our marquee that is currently there, and asked what's the best thing you can do for us. So my recommendation out of these 3 would be focused digital displays. Obviously, it came in a lot cheaper than the other 2. It is also the second best quality, and it is the biggest sign out of the 3. It also has the longest warranty on it. So I provided all 3 of the quotes, but I would give a strong recommendation for the focused digital display.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Todd, second by Dan. Council discussion.
You've got it in your budget.
Yep, we budgeted $20,000 for this, and I will say this is pre-tariff pricing as well. They do have it in stock. The other 2 have gone up recently.
Public comment? Haley, please.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Trump,
yes,
Casement,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Motion to approve pay request carries. 7.16, review and approve pay request for Musco Sports Lighting in the amount of $5,200 to repair lights at the old softball field, Gil Yoder Parks and Recreation Department Director.
So this one is a little odd. We reached out to a lot of local companies, but were directly recommended to Musco. It is for ball field lighting at old softball field. That is what they specialize in. And it's harder this is what Delancey has recommended for us. So that is ultimately what we pursued. And this is another budgeted project. We ultimately are just going to go with this ball field for this year. But if you have any questions, I can get those answered.
second,
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley,
Trump,
yes,
Casement,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
motion to approve the pay request carries. 7.17, review and approve pay request from Carico Aquatic Resources in the amount of $5,805.21 for required pool treatment chemicals at the Aqua Court, Gil Yoder Parks and Recreation Director.
So this is just one of those required purchases. I assume there will be 3 of these throughout the year. So this will get us through the first portion of the pool season. This is also for all of our test kits to test the water as well.
move to approve.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion. Public comment. Haley,
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Trump,
Yes,
Casement,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
motion to approve pay request carries. 7.8, review and approve pay request from Push Pedal Pull in the amount of $11,202 for 2 replacement treadmills at the Lawrence Community Center, Gil Yoder Parks and Recreation Director.
Yep, so this one, there's 3 quotes attached as well. Push pedal pull, they only offer the Precor models, where Johnson Fitness, they offer the Matrix models. So they're not a comparative figure here as well. But we do have two different quotes for the Matrix models, and those are both slightly higher than the push pedal pull. I recommend push pedal pull not only because it's cheaper, but they also are the ones that work on all of our current equipment. So they're there all the time doing routine checkups and such. So I highly recommend that one.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Council discussion.
May I add, our current treadmills are from 2012 and they have a lot of wear and tear on them. So this is another thing we'll be looking at in the future years. We are looking to purchase 2 of them this upcoming year and then either another 2 or another 3 in the next fiscal year.
Any public comment? David?
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve pay request carried. Thanks, Gail, for submitting and providing information on that. Dan, thank you for being present on that agenda item as well. 7.19, review and approve consent agenda. Pay request totaling $1,047,973.52. There are 13 items listed. I will read each item, after which council can make a motion that includes consent, which will bring all 13 up for one single vote, and any comments necessary. Or council can make a motion on any of the individual items. Item A from ECOG in the amount of $825 for the downtown facade revitalization project. Item B from ECOG in the amount of $2,700 for the wastewater treatment plant flow EQ basin project. Item C from Snyder and Associates in the amount of $11,483.20 for the wastewater treatment plant flow EQ basin project. Item D from WRH Inc. in the amount of $967,826.82 for the wastewater treatment plant flow EQ basin project. Item E from HR Green in the amount of $5,229 for the cemetery GIS project. Item F from HR Green in the amount of $7,000 for the water treatment plant aerator equipment replacement project. Item H from HR Green in the amount of $13,541 for the cemetery and planning and zoning GIS project. Item H from HR Green in the amount of $398.50 for the Anamosa sidewalk program. Item I from HR Green in the amount of $711.50 for engineering services master service agreement. Item J from HR Green in the amount of $1,128.50 for the Dillon Military Bridge Project. Item K from HR Green in the amount of $21,659.70 for the Third Street Sidewalk Extension Project. Item L from HR Green in the amount of $13,630.670.30 for the Ford and Huber Alley Sewer Project. Item M from Martin Garner Architecture in the amount of $1,800 Downtown Facade Revitalization Project.
Move to approve consent.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Any discussion, council, on the items? Any public comment? Would you conduct a roll call, please?
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Weimer,
Yes.
Dan Smith,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve consent carries. 8.0. City Administrator's report.
Just one item I wanted to mention, we had the comprehensive plan open house last week, that was on the 6th. Yeah, the 6th. I have not heard back from Tom Grush from EasyCog yet. He advised he was gonna kind of give us a preliminary update on everything. Just from being there though, I thought there was a pretty good turnout and I wanted to say thank you to everybody who showed up. We had quite a few areas set up with lots of different information and little dots being placed on important things all over the place. So I'm looking forward to having that information back as soon as EasyCog gets it captured for us.
Also have any questions for Jeremiah? Thanks for that report. 9.0 Mayor Council reports, 9.1 Mayor's report. Nothing to report. 9.2 Council reports. Ten point zero, public comment for items not on the agenda.
Tom Durgan, downtown property owner. Just want to make a point. We're going into our third phase of the downtown project. And I think we're, what, 3-4 years into this now. And I'm not going to put the blame on any of the city guys or any of you guys up here, but I'm going to put the blame directly on Derek and economic development. 3 months now, that sign downtown has been laying on the railing of that bank parking lot. That sign spends more time laying on its face than it does ever standing up. I think it's ridiculous that Derek can't step out of his office and take care of that. And I think he should. And I hope somebody tomorrow calls him and tells him, take care of it, make it permanent. It constantly blows over. It's an easy situation. You got to sign up saying what we're doing and you got to look underneath it to read it or drive up the alley. It's just, it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Real quick, Steve Agnes, Utility Superintendent. When you go home tonight, I recommend you drive by the wastewater plant. They started putting up walls on the tank. And they got at least 8 pieces of the walls put up today, so. Like I said, go check it out.
Making progress. Thanks, Steve. 11.0 adjournment. See, the meeting is adjourned.